might not need the mics because this goes here.
Yeah, we want to record. This is for recording for the archives for the conference. Oh, Andre's gonna join us as well. So basically, we got traditional crops. It's very easy, or they already have the channels for the markets, and we know how to, corn, soy, beans, whatever it is, wheat. But what about non-traditional crops? How do you market that? What are the challenges? How do we get our non-traditional crops at a good price, etc., etc.? I'm not gonna talk about that because I'm not an expert on that. But here we got Santiago Juan from San Lorenzo Farm. We got Mark Ellaby from LNB Grows. And we got Andrea Lloyd from Queensland, Australia.
And we got
Ronnie Cummins from Organic Consumers Association. And we got,
We
we're
have
already
everybody.
here. Let's all introduce each other. So my name is Alcidia Saores, and
we've got more
I'm from
panelists than
Argentina and
audience.
I'm part of Regeneration International. Right?
I'm Ronnie Cummins from Regeneration International.
Olga from Chile, now Mexico, Regeneration International. Daddy Boyd, I'm Regeneration Belize.
Okay.
But you're going to join, right?
But you're gonna join. And you can say if you're from a farm or where you're working. Good. Jeff?
I'm Jeff Swisher. I am providing sounds and stuff. I'm an audio engineer and sound technician.
Our most wonderful camera girl is sitting behind the cameras all the time.
I'm Nicole Laura, and I'm your cameraman.
Thank you. Sir?
I'm Salu Sichia. I'm here representing the network of current farmers from Chile. And developing spices because we know native spices.
That's why we're here. Correct.
I'm Ian Zip. I have my farm in San Antonio, Ohio. I have one greenhouse, both of the truck, another one, so I'm here to learn more.
Sorry, can you speak the last of the truck? I couldn't hear you. Could you just shout over the truck? I couldn't hear.
Ian Zip from San Antonio, Ohio. I have a greenhouse. I'm about to construct another one, so I'm here to learn about greenhouse and of course our crops. My dad planted sweet potato and corn beans.
I'm Kirk Sales, my wife Carrie. We farm in eastern Colorado, U.S. We've adopted regenerative practices probably 6 to 8 years ago. Found out about this conference. We're curious to come and see what
I think you're at the right place. Peter and Taylor, you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm with Kingfisher Regenerative Agricultural Services, and I live here in Belize.
I'm Sissy, and I live in Belize now for my 2nd year. And my first farming experience was with Mr. Ellenby's farm here in Rancho Dolores, where we grow lots of breadfruit and jackfruit and bamboo and other tropical fruits.
Anna, Big Smallwood. We live in Ladeville, and we are going to do garden, farming and everything. So this is for us. It's learning for us. We're going to decide what is it we want.
Part-time here, she allows me. Part-time in the U.S. when I have to go make money and she doesn't allow me to live here. So, my background is in technologies, ERP systems, dealing with business process, end-to-end supply chain. Pull some of that knowledge into
Great. And then Alvaro just joined us, Alvaro Zapata from SIPA, Colombia. So let's start talking.
Well, welcome everybody. And although it's about native crops, the challenges of marketing native crops, we have to define what the native crop is. What is a native crop to someone might just be a regular crop to someone else. around the world, there's a lot of crops that are actually native to Belize. So let us call them non-traditional native crops, because corn and beans are native to us. Tomatoes, hot peppers, those are native to us. Though they're around the world, this is where they left a few hundred years ago. So let us say non-traditional crops. In the case of my interest, and everybody here has specific interests. In my case, it's the leaf-bearing native crops, like amaranth and chaya and sweet potato, not as necessarily as a sweet potato, but as a leaf, as a foliage. And that's what my specific passion is about, and the challenges of marketing those, and how you make a wider acceptance to the general public. And they do have tremendous challenges, believe me. And some of them can be overcome. They're practical, storage ability, and others are much bigger than what I can change in my lifetime, and that is social acceptance. Certain crops become popular depending on the wealth of our society. I believe firmly, I might be wrong, but it's only my opinion, that sweet potato is not socially acceptable because it is a crop promoted for famine. It has a lot of history behind famines. The great march in China, the Mao Zedong march, is all about the sweet potato. There's a lot of political beliefs behind it. When Belize was developing, we had to, development up to recently meant that if you purchased a piece of land from the government, you had to remove the forest. That is the definition of development till very recently, to maybe 3 years ago. That is actually what development means. You bring in a dozer or an axe and you cut it down and you plant citrus, or you plant bananas or sugarcane or anything that you chose, but that was development. And today we're trying to promote native crops that are non-traditional, but they should be traditional, but they're no longer acceptable on the local market. And I believe the reasons for that is that most foods, be it a good food or a bad food, if you don't eat it when you're a child, you will not eat it as an adult. I have an uncle that lives in England. He's lived there, he was born there and lived there his entire life. He's a mechanical engineer. And all he eats is boiled potatoes, peas, and a boiled piece of pork. And you try to give him anything else, and don't bring that foreign stuff to me, son. And nobody can brew tea like he can. He will refuse to have tea at a restaurant. Nobody can brew tea. It's like boiling water in a tea bag, but nobody can do that. And the challenges we have in Belize are no different than me convincing my uncle that maybe he should try beans, that they're all right. But you think he's now in his late 70s, I'm in my mid 40s, and I have not been able to convince him. So the challenges are tremendous. The good news is that although I am young, there's a younger generation behind me coming that, I'm going to use a loose term that is an American term, that have become hipsters. And we have them also. And to me, that's a tremendous advantage to the new challenges, to overcome the challenges of native crops, because they are willing to try something that is hipster. And how do we package, like sweet potato, how do we package the concept of amaranth, and how do we package the concept of chaya, is the challenge. But it can be done. But it cannot be done, in my opinion, with no offense to a couple like this. I think they're too old. In other words, if you did not develop the taste buds as a child, it's a challenge. It's a fundamental challenge, and I acknowledge that. I have, I think, somewhere around 40,000 plants of moringa, and I don't eat it that much because I don't like it. It's a challenge. It's an absolute challenge. But if you were a vegan and you've been vegan for a long time, like our friend Mary, wherever she is, they can eat it like a rabbit. They think it's the greatest thing. To me, it's a challenge, and I'm honest. If it's not chopped up with tomatoes and onions and garlic and some olive oil, I'm not having it. So it's a challenge. And how do we overcome those challenges? In my opinion, it's starting with the children. There has to be school feeding programs where they are fed locally grown commodities that are free of all of these nitrates and nitrites and sodium and all of that we applied, which have added this gusto to chips and to whatever junk we eat. I mean, you cannot deny that it's unhealthy, but you cannot also not deny that it's delicious.
Yep.
And how do we make something that's healthy, delicious?
Well, the other one is you hit on it, is that you get the moringa and you put it in a really nice salad, chopped up with tomatoes,
Lots of
olives,
and some
Right.
cheese.
cheese,
Leave out
and
food with moringa.
yeah.
Weren't we talking about moringa, Daddy, yesterday? Yes, she does.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge. So we're talking about not us. Let us realize, and then I will give over because I'm not going to take up the time of everybody. Let us realize that because we're here, we are already different. We are already a select group of people on the planet. Most of the people do not think like us. If not, we would not be here. We'll be at somebody else's symposium discussing another issue. We are genuinely different. We are thinking out of the box. And how do we contaminate other people to think like us? And that is, to me, the challenge.
Well,
There is no information that has not been published of how great chaya is. And yet, we don't eat it.
Right. Can I
That's
just talk about one way? You're saying about educating the children, but one of the best ones I've saw is actually in Peru. One of the leading chefs in Lima. We actually went to his restaurant, and he specializes in indigenous foods like chaya, guinea pigs, and traditional Peruvian foods, and turning them into gourmet foods. He gets them on TV. You know, people come from all around the world, all around Lima to eat it. It goes from being, oh, this is not interesting, to this is a really good experience, and people pay a lot of money for it. It's packaging and it's marketing.
I think that's the hit on the head right there is the rebranding. It's like my wife will not eat catfish as long as she's lived in Belize City.
Kato.
No. And I have a problem. We go to Texas in certain restaurants. You go to a fish restaurant and it's a catfish restaurant. She stays in the car. You don't want to eat. But I think with rebranding and proper marketing and sometimes even pricing,
Yeah.
you change pricing, and sometimes, and I know Belize people don't like to hear this, you increase the price.
Exactly, increase the price, make it valuable.
And then all of a sudden it becomes gourmet, and you open up a totally different market. From that perspective too, me being from doing consulting for big organizations and change management, a lot of times you have to get higher levels in the organization to buy in, to push ideas down, like with marketing and television drives and stuff like that, and you push product out or push a business process or an idea out, and people buy into that. And they see, oh, the president, he's eating catfish now, so it must be good. You know, it's kind of, I know that's kind of like a...
Yeah, or you get a celebrity to endorse
Exactly.
Celebrity
And some people
impulse,
might
yeah.
think that's a dumb idea, but the masses look at that, oh, the celebrity.
Mark,
so
what's
now-
your
Something.
experience with L&B?
So I have a lot of experience, and I'm not a marketer. I'm a producer. So my experience, we all have our favorite crops. So I started farming and planted my first annona trees in 1980. Okay, and nobody knew in South Florida, where I'm a farmer, what annonas were. Sugar apple, we had an annona hybrid, Atamoya, and how do we go to market? We had to identify an ethnic base that knew this up in Florida, up the east coast of the U.S. I've grown other tropical fruits because for a while I thought, oh, I can sell anything that produces a lot of yield. And so I grew white sapote, which is Casamaroa. I grew black sapote, which is a Diospyros, right? And until I found a little slot for Mexican Americans that knew what black sapote was, we couldn't sell 100 pounds a season, and we produced 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. Now we sell them all. Okay, we found a little slot. So niche marketing is what I have experience with, but now the old formula as to what we've done for decades doesn't even seem to work anymore because there's a lot of producers, there's a lot of players, there's international competition. And so the only reason we may survive in the next decade is because I have kids that are interested in farming and they're doing it, and they're adding value to the crops that we have, okay? So I know what a bushel of avocados is worth in South Florida, And we have a beautiful long season with 9 months of fantastic varieties, West Indian varieties, West Indian Guatemalan varieties, pure Guatemalans. Long season, but when they make it into guacamole, they make money. They buy the bushels from me, and a $10 bushel of avocados can be $90 or $100 worth of guacamole. If you buy the big size, you get a free bag of little chips, right? Where they get in big bags, and that's that. So guacamole, we freeze our fruits in season. They add value, they make smoothies. There's no milk or soy or almond milk in them. No, it's ice, it's fruit, it's simple syrup that they make from palm sugar. They've added value. We grow turmeric on our organic farm. I'm a conventional farmer with a very good environmental conscience. So even in my conventional groves, we don't ever spray poison on fruits. So we've chosen crops where we don't need poison. But on the home farm, it's organic. So we've built up beds of soil. We grow turmeric of many different colors. We grow gingers, and they make a turmeric and ginger concentrate and a tonic, which is not a concentrate. And trainers are coming from Miami. So it's just exposure, and it's adding value to the products. We're growing Roselle as an annual. You guys know Roselle, Hibiscus sabdurifa. I love this crop. It's magnificent. I'm selecting for size now, because I can grow it as an annual and grow really big Kala seeds. And what are we going to do with this? Well, we're not just going to dry it and make it into tea, which even though it's loaded with antioxidants, we're going to do something as a fresh product, as a chutney product, as a spread, as a concentrate, something. So to me, the real challenge, it's a steep learning curve to educate our consumers and what market are we targeting, because we're all relatively small producers. We're not producing agronomic crops, we're producing wild crops that we're bringing into our gardens, or we're producing horticultural crops. So the challenge is to identify where you want to go, because we don't have the dollars to spend on marketing. The only reason I can sell anything is because I've hooked up with ethnic repackers, distributors in our area. They buy from local growers and they go to market. All I'm doing is catching a ride. So if I didn't have marketing relationships with people that are in the market and have big coolers, I would just be a guy that has tens of thousands of pounds of longan, for example. We grow sapodilla. What I like about sapodilla is that it's multi-ethnic, right? So we know Chico Zapote or Níspero or Naseberry or sapodilla or sapote, whatever you want to call it. Because it's multi-ethnic, we can go many different ways. And because it's the right consumer size, it's not big like a mamey, what we always grow, I can get a higher per pound price. So the challenges for me are to find the slots to work with marketers. We've spent United States government money on marketing plans. We've got grants administered through the state of Florida from the USDA. And I have to say, I sat on a marketing committee for 3 years. We met monthly. We did in-store demos. We did this. I didn't do anything except we said, okay, here's the packing houses, and now you can go to market, and we're going to pay for your ladies to do in-store demos. We spent a lot of government money over a 3-year period. In fact, we got an extension for another year. So all this money then was gone, and then we looked back, and this was more than a decade ago. We don't sell any more fruits into those markets. So for you as a producer, find your slots, and it is challenging. And don't diss your neighbor. Work with your neighbor. Share a production thing, because you guys are creating the market together. You know, when I first started growing turmeric, I thought, oh, I don't want anybody else to grow turmeric. And then I told a buddy of mine, says, oh, you're growing turmeric. I think I'll grow some too. Where'd you get your starts? And I told him the Indian woman where I got my starts from, he did too. Now we're both in the marketplace. We're trying to grow the fresh market for organically grown orange turmeric between December and May, when I don't think it exists anywhere else except from Hawaii, right? So I can go up the East Coast of the U.S. and they don't have to pay all those transportation miles. So the challenges are to, you know, have a top quality product and grow some healthy things that people want, and a little bit of education, maybe some consumer information that travels with it. Even a sticker has a lot of information. A tissue, a little plastic bag, something. So we're looking at innovative packaging. We're still working with our marketers, and we're trying to change things up, because the old formula of just growing tens of thousands of pounds of this and taking it to the packer hasn't been working out so well for us lately.
Have you targeted like local restaurants or chefs?
We have.
Or other industry?
We have. Chefs in Miami are very hip to locally grown fruits, yeah.
When you do that, do you do any specific grows Like if somebody orders a specific.
You know, we would like to be contract growers. We have some friends that are contract growers for like an Indian restaurant, and they're just kicking it on an acre and a quarter of land. They've built up beds. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, and the chefs, since we're not going to go to them, we tell them where we're going to be, because my daughter does a farmer's market for more than 5 years now, and they come to us. It works out.
So like attending farmers markets and trade shows help you attending like trade shows and farmers market and stuff.
I have attended trade shows, not as a sole standing person, but with the state of Florida, because they'll get a big booth and then they'll let you have a slot, right? And so we've attended trade shows. We've been to the Florida Restaurant Association. We cut up jackfruits, and then all the people from the kitchens that know jackfruit will come and how can we get it from your farm? Well, then there's also a disconnect between the farm and that chef's kitchen, right, in trade shows. In terms of farmers markets, I've never been exposed to retail before. Having exposure with my daughter is kind of amazing for me, what people will pay, at least in South Miami where we are, because I farm at Homestead, Florida. That's not really where I market. She's my little customer, but she does ridiculously well because she's adding value.
So the real trick here is add value.
That's what's going to allow us, I think, to survive. Not just tonnage.
I'm exporting turmeric to the US as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
The international price, I mean, our cost of production here in the US is much higher.
It's high. But you also have transportation and regulations, yeah?
There's that buyers that they want organic food instead of conventional meat. So yes, I understand that. What I found here in Belize, that I have sold more turmeric outside of Belize than in Belize. When I started selling locally, it's very hard to get Belizean people, like what you said, taste. I mean, probably only the Indian community and the East Indians know about it. Getting very from people, getting our culture is to provide, to use this product. I'm going through the challenges as we speak. And what I'm doing some research, I'm looking at the health benefits and so on and so on. What is my next move to start within the arthritis patients?
That's right.
So,
Turmeric.
turmeric.
Contact the natural health industry at the moment. The turmeric is one of the biggest, yellow turmeric is one of the biggest health at the moment as for multiple things, for preventing cancer, for you can go on and on, have a look at the benefits of turmeric. And at the moment, natural health companies are sourcing it everywhere to make as tablets for, like you're doing for sports drinks or health drinks or fitness drinks. There are so many different outlets for turmeric. You should start looking at them and doing exactly what you've talked about, instead of just thinking of trying to have a raw product for the tubers. Start looking at where you can send that into where it's going to be value added.
You know, I was at the seminar yesterday on turmeric production from Nolito, and she has a phenomenal turmeric paste. And so she pitched to, like, in the U.S. they have a show called Shark Tank, and there's billionaires that sit there and you pitch your business idea. Well, you have to have sales and you have to have some history, and then they may fund you. So she did the Canadian Shark Tank. There's an Indian woman, came from Belize. She has like 200-300 growers in Toledo now, right? And she pitched them all to Dragon's Den. All the dragons are in, and she attends food shows and wins awards, and her product is phenomenal. Phenomenal. But I think there's a lot of products that can be created with this. Yes. And then people will want to eat it every day.
Yeah.
There's a big difference where she's doing the paste from fresh turmeric.
Yes, and that's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yes.
What happens when you cannot sell your product fresh? Then we had to dry, and then you know what I'm trying to figure out is if we could make turmeric from the powder. That's some other stuff.
Well, that's how it's used mostly around the planet. It's how I grew up using turmeric. And whole root turmeric has just a lot more pizzazz to it because it's a live plant.
Yeah.
And so our deal is we have 200,000 milligrams in a 16-ounce bottle of concentrate. 200,000 milligrams, that's 2,000 grams, okay? And if you buy little capsules, that's 1 gram per day for 30 days, and you pay up,
Yeah.
right? But we have 200 grams for 200,000 milligrams. So
Yeah.
that kind of sounds like a big number, and that's how my son-in-law markets it. We have 200,000 milligrams, a whole plant.
So it's good value.
We do have some unique challenges in Belize, though, talking more
Yes.
locally.
Yes, yes.
We fundamentally, if we're going to be strict capitalists, we do not have a capitalist population. We are only 360,000 people. That is a market that doesn't exist. 360,000 people might be a borough somewhere in Florida. It's a corner of Florida. So any micro industry that is created in Belize has to be very targeted to a special group of people. Because although we like to use the word unique very loosely, but we truly are unique in Belize. Our population centers are very, very small and very, very different. And you're absolutely right. The Mayan community and the Garifuna community and the Creole community and the mixed race communities, we all eat very differently. And our taste buds are very different. And the challenge to market a non-traditional commodity in Belize amongst ourselves is very, very difficult. Is it possible? The answer is yes. There are some commodities that have been highly successful. Everybody knows, without an exception, that every Belizean table has a product called Marie Sharp. It has been so successful that when we go shopping, we don't go shopping for hot sauce. We go shopping for Marie Sharp. It just so happens it is a hot sauce, but we go shopping for Marie Sharp. That has been a very successful, but that took a long period of time. That started off with, as a matter of fact, even with a different name. There were some legalities and they went to what is present day Marie Sharp. And they had a huge backing in that specific product by different organizations, including central government. They had a big push towards marketing their product. We have had other successful projects, and has been a lot of the chocolate is now marketed also, which is moving. But they're not volume. Marie Sharp's biggest volume is abroad. I think it's Japan or something like that. It's not even Belize. Because
What's Marie Sharp's? I'm sorry, it's a hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Okay.
Hot sauce, yeah.
It's a
Hot sauces, she's got a few of them.
She does have a very diverse line of products.
Okay.
Not only hot sauces, but within the hot sauces, there's a diverse line of hot sauces. But she also has chutneys, she has jams, she has a tremendous amount of products.
Okay.
But her sales is Fiery Hot sauce.
Okay.
She has many different brands, and Fiery Hot outsells the jams stay on the shelves for the whole year. I think only the expats buy marmalade, for example. And she makes very good marmalade, by the way. But it's a challenge. She continues on it because the one product carries the other.
Right.
And turmeric, I'm coming to that. Turmeric, you'd have to find a product that can carry turmeric. I used to sell meat. I built a meat plant called Beef Masters in the Stan Creek district. And it's next to impossible to sell beef if you don't sell chicken. So my beef runs, my trucks had to have chicken in there. Because if you stop and somebody buys chicken, they will buy beef, they'll buy pork, they'll buy fish, they'll buy shrimp. But they will not buy beef if you do not have chicken. They'll wait for the chicken truck. So you need to find a product that carries a product. Your high value product might be turmeric. It might be the paste, it might be powder, it might be the fresh root. But what carries it? And it doesn't have to be another product. It could be, like Mr. Lou said, it could be the health benefits, a story. In Belize, everybody knows Dilma tea. Dilma tea is in all the stores. I think it's where is it from? Sri Lanka, I think. Dilma tea, if anybody has taken the little bit of time, every pack has a beautiful story on it of who was the father, who was the grandmother, who is the son doing it now, who picked it, and there's stories, and we don't have the culture. We don't like to talk about ourselves. We don't promote ourselves. We don't pat ourselves on the shoulder. It's not our culture, but we need to start. because that is marketing. Stories. We have to have a story. What is the story of the turmeric? How did it start? Little things like this, because my friend here is absolutely right. The days of mass producing commodities, of having 100 acres of this, 100 acres of that, are done. They're over. It's little micro markets, cottage industries. In San Ignacio, our friend here is a member of a buyers group called Pro Organic. And they are, as far as I know, I might be wrong, and I apologize if I'm wrong, are the first organized group that has lasted, I don't know, best part of 3 years now, 2 years, that have contract farmers. That's an unheard of concept in Belize. And it makes sense. They have contracted certain commodities out. Unfortunately, they have not been able to grow as quickly as I would like them to grow. I think the actual active consumers might be 40, I'm guessing. Maybe members, they have more. But actual consumers, I think they're somewhere around, I don't know, 20, 40, somewhere around there. Anyway, if you can get consumers that want you produce these products for them. And that is the type of marketing that we need to start to do. That we have failed at very, very badly, actually. Because the amount of produce that stays in the fields in Belize is extraordinarily high.
You know, you've got one other huge market, high value market, 400,000 tourists at your resorts. And they are ones who are really interested in trying something new. They're on holiday, they've got money to spend, you know, and, you know, for me, that'd be a market I'd be looking at how to pitch it, talking with chefs, trying to promote it as part of the experience of coming here to Belize, because for the first time they're seeing fruits that, you know, that they've never seen before unless they've been to southern Florida. And, you know, they're open to trying it because they're on holidays. They're not in their usual, you know, 3 vegetables and boiled pork at night. It's you know, for the first time, they might be able to try beans or something, you know, frijoles. But for me, you know, this would be an area I'd really look at, because that's where you can really value add as well.
I think getting out of your industry, the hotel or
yeah, exactly.
tourist industry.
Yes.
I mean, you don't think I produce tomatoes or whatever I produce in my local crop here. Go talk to a hotel.
Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do? They're going to serve your product, and they're also going to push your product to high-value customers, people that'll pay a lot of money for something a local person gets for pennies.
Yeah.
With the tourist market, I have quite a bit of experience. And I have a word of caution and then some good news. The word of caution is you need to realize that in Belize, at this point, it might change, but right now, you have to treat it like a migrant population. So your peaks of production have to be extremely well timed of when you're here. And you're here for a very short period of time. So don't think that I'm going to go out and plant, say, cucumbers, and because I'm going to sell it to the restaurants that cater for the international guests, and I have them in the month of, say, June, because there's nobody here. There's absolutely nobody here. As a matter of fact, the hotels don't open their season until September. So that is a word of caution. Anybody exploring the tourist market, it's an excellent market, I must agree. I live off it. But you have to be cautious.
Yeah, look.
You could research the hotel association and find out what's high season, what's low season.
That is all published. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You just have to be very careful, because agricultural commodities are tricky. They're perishable, highly perishable.
Yeah, but I want to agree with you. It's about growing to the market and working to the market backwards. Look, growing is for most of us as farmers, we're pretty good at growing. We're pretty poor at selling.
We're all poor.
And, you know, you're entrepreneurial, but most farmers grow it and hope someone's going to buy it and then complain when no one gives them any money.
I'm not good at selling.
And, you know, what I'm saying, what you're saying is exactly right. You've got to find out what the season is. You've got to find out what the resorts want and what they need, and grow to that. Time it, look and see, can I produce to the market's requirement? That's in the end what I did as a farmer, and then I became successful. I made money. But up until that point, I was like every other farmer, struggling to survive.
The good news now, okay, is that a lot of these gentlemen are much older than you and I are. And they're,
Thank you.
they started,
Thank you.
they started before their time. The consumer has changed now. And now is the time for a lot of these new and innovative ideas. People are now willing to try to support farmers. This entire concept of eating local, you know, it is now an actual, it's in practice now. People, there's people here today, I think they've left, that go to my farm to buy directly from me. They drive, rather than go to San Ignacio Market, they come to my farm. No, there's not many, I think there's half a dozen or so. But the trend has started. If you are consistent, and everybody knows that you have a very high quality turmeric powder, they will start seeking you. What happens to us as farmers is we get discouraged very, very easily because we invest and then we lose. We invest and then we lose. And we need to look at products that are not as perishable. That's critical, very critical, because we're going to be discouraged so quickly because it's a fickle market. It's a fickle market. But it can be done because the consumer base is changing and the population is growing and the mindset has changed. People truly want to know where their food is from. People truly want to know that if it was produced by laborers, that the laborers are treated nicely like human beings. And people do want to know that the food is wholesome. They truly want to do that now. And Belize is no different. It's no different. It is changing.
The next challenge that I've seen in marketing is going to is the organic certification. We are going organic. We do not have an organic certification yet. I am working on it and I'm going to collaborate with farmers. Yes. And from Corazal to Toledo, which I'm collaborating with whereby I started off with a research of spices, vanilla, cardamom, and sea farmers have so organic certification is one that is been requested to us.
So if I can say something on
Some farmers,
organic,
like, once the one buyer came and they wanted to buy from one farm, they wanted a specific farm to be certified. Now that's a big challenge because we don't have any certified bees.
I can speak to that. Organic certification is just having a certifier come, let's say from Florida to here. Now that's expensive, but they're only going to do it once a year. But the transition to certification, unless your land has been lying fallow, is 3 years. So you start keeping your records of everything that you do, and then and you communicate with the certifiers, and when they come, here are your records. Because I can say, all right, I went from conventional to organic packing, and I washed this table, and they say, okay, let's see it in the book. And if you didn't write it down, you didn't do it, even if you did it, right? So start keeping your records of what you're doing, unless your land has been lying fallow. So the transition is a 3-year period. It's fine. It's a little expensive to bring someone here, right? And then it's not terribly expensive once he's here. I don't know, because I know my certifier comes once a year. But in my world, I think there should be spot checks, because I think there's some guys that say, yeah, I'm all organic and everything, and then I do this when the certifier is not around. Well, that doesn't fly, because the consumer really cares a lot. And a story really goes a long way, and the consumer market is changing. People really want to eat, a lot of people, not everybody, and not a lot of people in the U.S., want to eat healthy, live foods. And again, when you have perishable agricultural commodities, you envy guys that have warehouses or other jobs because they can just stack the shelves and build inventory, and when the sales come, then they go. But we have perishable hot potatoes. Everything's a hot potato, right? And that's where the value added helps a lot. And we still don't have any shelves. Refrigerator or freezer, but we don't have anything that'll keep on the shelf. We're working on that with pasteurization, etc. And then we'll reach out to somebody that could sell something that's shelf stable.
I have.
Organic is not a mystery. It's record keeping and playing by the rules.
I think you have to build good business process to facilitate that. Like you're saying with record keeping and whatnot, how many times did you wash this table? Is there a set standard behind that? Does everybody know that set standard? Do you know the standards behind being qualified as organic? And if you do you have that documented? Do your employees follow that? Do you follow that? Do you document, like what he's saying, somebody comes and looks at your records? You have to follow that business process. A lot of times with perishable goods too, if you have a good business process behind that, your goods, you have less spoilage because that's built into your business process. You're running an assembly line. Plant something, harvest it, market it, and it's out the door. You don't keep it, you don't have a warehouse for it.
Unless you're processing it. And organic certainly does give you a marketing edge. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It really does. And I think there should be another category like unsprayed produce, which my produce is. You know, my star fruit, for example, I wouldn't spray anything on them. I want to eat it off the tree. But then that it contains the word spray. And so we're trying to think of a family thing. Or my daughter said, how about like certified to the source or something like this? Because organic and unsprayed does give you an edge. People don't want to eat pesticide, right?
Well, there's a new standard too that has only come into effect in the last 2 years in the U.S. It's called transition.
Yes.
It means transition to organic. And what does transition means? It means that you sign a contract with a certifier and you've started to obey the rules, you know, so that in the 3 years, say it's a 3-year period, you can sell your product as transition at a premium, even though you're not fully certified yet. So that's a thing to think about. Consumers are starting to recognize this in the United States. Organic consumers, usually transition products, they're a little bit cheaper than the fully certified organic, but they're still a premium. And a lot of consumers want to help farmers go organic, so they'll choose transition over certified if they're, you know, really conscious. So the other thing I wanted to say is about one of the founding members of Regeneration International is a natural health group that you should all subscribe to. It's free. Mercola, MERCOLA.com. What Mercola.com does is every day reaches millions of people with information about natural health and nutrition. And they also have 300,000 or 400,000 articles archived. So if you looked up turmeric on Mercola.com, you would get the most incredible information, and not only in English, but also in Spanish, and there's 8 other languages. And then you would know, like Mercola, I take turmeric every day, a Mercola product. Mercola sells, you know, large amounts of these things.
Dr. Mercola we see on
Facebook.
Dr.
Just Mercola.com. And comes out every day. They have 2 million daily subscribers. But one thing is like sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are sweeping the U.S. now as the new superfood, and a lot of natural health restaurants, they don't serve fried potatoes anymore, but they serve sweet potatoes. But they're either baked or they use coconut oil. They don't use vegetable oil for sure. So I think the thing about agriculture, natural health and organic agriculture go hand in hand, and we should do that. And we also need to look at what the new trends are, and I think Belize could benefit from some of those. I mean, the hottest new product in the natural food sector in the United States is bone broth, you know? So that if you had bone broth from Belize, from grass-fed beef, you would have an incredibly hot market. And most of the bone broth is bad now in the U.S. It's from factory farms. But And just one last thing, in Mexico, we're looking at how do we make traditional foods that'll grow in the desert popular. And one of the things we did was with nopal, that has the prickly pear, we brew organic beer, and then we take the extract from the prickly pear, which is called tuna in Mexico, we put it in the beer. And it makes the beer pink, but it also tastes really good. And I mean, I think if we wanted to take that flavor, cactus beer, to the U.S., we could make a fortune, off of it. So we need to look at the future. What's going to be big in Belize? Even if it's not big now, I guarantee you that craft beer is going to be big in Belize. I don't know if it's next year, 2 year, 3 year. It's going to be big, just like in the U.S. And the other thing that's going to be big is cannabis. And when you legalize pot here, you need to be ready to come out with organic and biodynamic cannabis. That is going to be hot, hot, hot. And, people are going to try to produce cannabis with chemicals, and chemical fertilizer. And the people who do it right, just like craft beer, the people who do organic and biodynamic is what you should look at, organic and biodynamic. You're going to be, if the trend comes, you can be there,
I have one final input for you. Do not be overly concerned about any form of certification. There's a lot of certifications out there. And yes, absolutely, without a minimum of a doubt, a certified product gets or fetches a higher price on the market. But as our friend said here, it might be costly. I am not organically certified, and I sell moringa in Texas. Not that much, about 200 pounds a year is shipped to Texas. And it's not certified. The way I started is by testing. I will pay for the testing. And if the product is truly organic, it doesn't have to be certified organic if when it is tested at the point to the consumer and the buyer is satisfied that it's a clean and healthy product. That is a way to start into the market. As you get richer and your networking grows, there are certifiers. Maybe you can coordinate with my friend here when his certifier comes down. It's coordination, it's networking. But let it not be a limiting factor to anybody, because products have markets, we just have to work together. And testing, because even in organics, you have to test. iFoam, for example, promotes not necessarily organic farming, but iFoam is a concept of organic farming that promotes testing. And it relies on the ethics and the morals of the producer, that they're doing what they say they're doing. And that's important. I won't keep everybody back.
No, but I wonder, iPhone and Andre here, Andres having been 2 times iPhone president, maybe he has some words of wisdom on certification and all that.
Okay. Yeah. I was the longest serving president of iPhone. So basically what we see is certification as a marketing tool you don't have to be certified to be organic. That's a really important thing I want to get across. But in terms of what we want to see is that when someone's making a claim, that claim is verifiable. We want to keep fraud out of the system. So there's a few systems. So there's the, if you want to look at what's happening in the USA with the USDA, which is one system. But for a lot of small farmers, say here in Belize, those sorts of certification systems are too expensive. So another one which we have is what we call participatory guarantee systems, where we can get a group of small farmers, they can get together and they can actually have a peer review system, develop their own standard that would fit amongst what we call our iPhone organic standards, and do it that way. But on the other hand, too, just say if you're going like you're doing directly to your consumer, well, you can actually, say to the farmers market or something like that. There's other ways that you can use to verify the integrity of your claim. So we're not saying that everybody has to be third-party certified, but what we want to make sure is that if somebody's saying they're organic, that there's integrity and keep fraud out, because one, we need to keep fraud out so if the consumers are paying a premium, they're getting what they're paying for. But at the same time, also to help the farmers so that the people who are doing the right thing are getting the premium and not people who are doing the wrong thing and making the claims. So that's why, where we really need third-party certifications like the USDA one, to say when products are being sold in supermarkets or in shops and you don't have that close link between farmer and consumer, you need to have a third-party system to verify the integrity. But if for instance, your daughter is selling directly to people in South Florida, they can come up to your farm and they can have a look and see that you're doing the right thing, and you can do it that way. So, or in your case, you can show testing to show there's no pesticides. So, all these systems, as far as we're concerned, show the integrity of the system. So that's our point of view on iPhone. What we're trying to do is make sure that if you're saying that this is pesticide free, it is pesticide free.
Is everybody familiar with iPhone? If not, I highly recommend you get on the website of.
See, I was the president of iPhone
Yes.
for a long time.
I recommend you get on the website of
billions.
iPhone,
Yes.
and they got a document which is this iPhone is the International Federation of.
Organic Agricultural Movements.
Thank you. That's right. International Federation of Organic Agricultural Movements. IFOAM.
The global umbrella body.
Yep. And I highly recommend you get on their website. They got this wonderful document that is called Organic 3.0. And the idea of that is basically also getting democratizing organics. Organic is it's always been seen as a niche. We need to take that out of the niche and make it more available for everyone too, through different systems as well. So I recommend you get on the website and read that. And look at that, it's 5 o'clock. But any other comments, any final remarks?
I would say one more thing from a
Yes.
lean manufacturing standpoint, looking at other industries. A lot of times people overlook their customer. Your customer is worth more than just the dollars in their pocket. They can give you information. Are you collecting information on your customers? Are they on WhatsApp or Messenger or Facebook or Instagram? Can you contact your customers that way? A lot of small businesses and small farms, when you do a production run, you can have all that sold before you even start your production run. You say, I'm gonna have 100 pounds Wednesday, and you do a WhatsApp. You have a WhatsApp group.
Or Facebook. I know
Or
people
Facebook.
on Facebook and sell everything on Facebook.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have everything sold for your local customers, or even abroad customers. You have everything sold before you even start production. You just have to make sure that your processes are set there that when you start production, you're going to have what you say you're going to have at the end of production.
And I know people, for instance, who say, look, we're just about to kill a cow, we're going to have this much available.
Exactly.
They've got it all sold before they've even cut it up.
Yep.
It's such, and you're saying, right, you've got Instagram, you've got WhatsApp, you've got so many ways now that you can contact your customer and sell directly to your customer.
Well, and your customer is worth more than that dollar in their pocket.
Right.
Because your customer will tell you, I don't like this packaging.
Yeah.
Or you're selling me a pound of this and I only use an ounce of it a month. Repackage this. Customer feedback.
Yeah.
You can get that through Facebook and things like that too.
Exactly.
Just a comment that mentioned to Andrew. Very often when we talk about organic, we are looking for a premium, and of course that's important. But at least in some harvests, even without a premium, organic could be in economic terms better than conventional. We have the example in Colombia with sugar cane. Maybe sugar cane is easier to become organic than many other harvests. We have the example of organic sugar cane farmers in Colombia, and even without a premium, for them it's more profitable to be organic than to be conventional. Maybe that's a point for many other harvests. We are just all the time thinking the premium. Maybe with many crops, to be organic is more profitable just than the conventional. Forgetting the premium. Of course, if you get the premium, so things are going to be better. But I think it's part of our work to demonstrate, to do research that in many crops, organic can be more productive and more profitable than conventional.
Mark, is that related to this?
Yeah, just one little comment. At this conference, I came down interested in cover crops, and I'm more interested in cover crops than I've ever been. And to even think that a cover crop, well grown, can supply 100 to 150 pounds of elemental nitrogen to my soil and add all this organic matter, and it's just remarkable. And I don't know why I'm not covering my farm with all these different crops and see what works for me, and I'm going to do that. So that's changed my thinking. But so you save money by, number one, you're not polluting the ground with artificial fertilizers, although we have fantastic fertilizers in South Florida. But number two, you're really supplying your nitrogen needs with a crop, which is a miracle. So this regenerative agriculture thing is a big deal. And organic is just a thing. So we're all looking for an edge. We want to have costs that make sense for us, and we want to sell at a fair price, but not an obscene price. We just want to go on with our lifestyles. We like to be growers.
I wish not to have to sell anything, just to grow it.
Just to grow it, that's the truth.
That's what they're really good way of ending it.
My perspective, we had no intentions of marketing, no intentions of we were supposed to sell fresh produce, but when the buyer can't buy us, you have to push it to go farther and farther. You know, and it's amazing to know that people want product out there, but they want it ready. They don't want the turmeric sticks, they want it pulverized. Right. They don't want the moringa leaf, they want it pulverized. They don't want the cardamom pods, because I've met cardamom growers in Toledo. I asked them what it is used for. They don't know. They just grow it and sell it. And when the market collapsed in Guatemala, they were getting low prices, so I started to push it for them on the Belizean side. And I don't know what cardamom is. I had to do my research. I don't know how to use it. I had to do experiments in my kitchen. I turned my kitchen into a laboratory. Nice. I started to learn stuff, and I think it's that trend that's pushing me farther and farther. And what I see is what you said, value added. You have to dry it. Now I have dry pods. I tried to sell it. It's not working. I have to grind the seeds. So I'm selling cardamom powder now.
Cardamom is to the Arabs. They drink it with coffee all day, every day. But that was the Guatemalan market.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mexican market too.
Well, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.